Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a message that we received, and the message, it reads like this. Hello, how are you? Please post my story. I used to sell tomatoes. Now I am into selling potatoes. We do have a small farm that I do have, and I want to confess that I have a charm that I got from Mozambique. This charm that I got from Mozambique, it is the one that I use on my farm. And I also have a confession about how my husband passed away. My name, you'll call me Tandekam. I am a South African woman. I was born in Matox, Limpopo, but I now live in Johannesburg. I stay in Orange Farm. I am someone that seems as if they are a hard-working person. I stay in this area because that is where most of my business is. I am telling my story to you because I have been looking for a prophet that comes from Zim for a very long time, but I can't seem to find someone that can assist me. If you know anyone who will help me, please give me the phone numbers of that traditional healer, especially someone that is from outside of the country. Even if it is a prophet, I really do not care, but I'm scared of going to the pastors because maybe if they pray for me, my tokoloshim will end up beating me like it once did when I went to this other church where I had been told that there was a pastor that was helping people. I went there. Then I found out that this pastor, even though he was someone that was speaking with God, but he did not want to assist me. He wanted to know all about the charms that I was using, and this gave an opportunity for the Tokoloshi to come and to stiffen my jaws, and I could not talk anymore. They prayed for me. The deliverance did not come to me. When I returned back home, I found my tokoloshi. It was waiting for me. So I do not want to take any chances at all. So being born in Matox, my mother, she moved out. Then she came to Joburg because she was working as a security at this other clinic here in hauntings. And this was after she had fought with my father. My father was working at a farm, and my father then moved back to Tanin, where he comes from, and my father, he got married again. I used to go and visit my father back in those days, but my father did not want me around because this messed up his relationship with his new wife. So I did not visit Limpopo that much. I was just staying here with my mother as she was working. We stayed in a backyard shack in Deep Kloof. Growing up, we had to survive, and survival, it was not so easy. I promised myself that I would never die poor like my mother. I wanted to be rich. In 2014, whilst I was visiting home in Limpopo, I saw that farmers just before Mankweng, they were busy selling to Mozambican trucks. I then asked this other friend of mine who told me that yes, they were Mozambicans that were coming to buy tomatoes, and they would go with those tomatoes back to Mozambique. So at the same time in Joburg fresh produce market, the tomatoes, they were expensive and scarce. So I borrowed some money from a stockfell and I started buying tomatoes. Since I had a bakim that I had, I would drive around to the small farmers, not your big white farmers. I would go around Sibayeng, Hamavulu, and I would buy whatever that I would get from people that were just farming, even in their backyards, because this would help me to get a lot of profit. At first, I sold locally then everything changed. The day when I met a man whom I'll call Carlos. I met this man. He was with his assistant driver at the Joburg market in City Deep. These two, they were Mozambicans. They said that they had tomatoes that were going to Maputo, and sometimes these tomatoes will end up going to Beira, where factory turned them into tomato paste and sauce, and they were paying cash. So that cash, that was what I wanted. I started to go around to some medium-sized farms around Polokwane, asking if I could get some tomatoes at a cheaper price. I did not want these guys to know where I was getting these tomatoes, because then I was never going to be the middleman. Within a year, I was no longer selling 1, 2, 3, 10 crates like I used to. I was moving tons of tomatoes. What I will do is that I would hire even a smaller truck. The first days I could not fill up those big Mozambican trucks, so I would hire your H100, maybe 3 at a time. Then I would buy the tomatoes, then I would move them. As time went on, at my house, there were even trucks that were coming to get the tomatoes that we would have already stocked. And this was a little bit risky, because tomatoes, they get bad really fast. And I started moving around, and I was making a lot of money. I then went to visit my siblings in Zanin. I think that was when I started thinking about using some charms in my business. When I got there, they were doing a ceremony to welcome me into their family, since this was never done. When we went to my father's grave to do a ceremony as well, I felt something that was strange that had entered into my body. From there on, I had this desire to find a good sangoma that could assist me with some lucky charms, because there were times when some of these tomatoes will get bad before the Mozambicans would have come to buy, and I wanted to have a strong customer base of many Mozambicans so that my tomatoes will go as fast as possible. And then that was when my breakthrough came. One day, as I was speaking with Carlos, I told him that I just wanted a lucky charm in my business. To my surprise, even though he was a man who said that he was a Christian, he told me that he was also using a charm in his own business as a middleman to sell these tomatoes to other Mozambicans, because he was the one that was holding the operations here in South Africa, so that the other Mozambicans, when they would come, he would direct them where to go to and buy the tomatoes, since they would be afraid to just approach anyone and to tell them that they want to buy tomatoes in bulk, because this was like thousands and thousands of rands. And as we were speaking, I told him that there was something that was slowing down, something that I could not understand, even though business was okay. But any problem when I could not sell the tomatoes, it would eat a lot of my profit. And I had realized that in my business, I did not have any savings at all, which meant that if I did not make any sales, I would go broke. That was why I was being unable to buy a big truck like I wanted to. Like if I bought a big truck, then I can resell a lot of tomatoes, not these smaller trucks. They were costing me big time to put diesel in each and every little H100 that I could have hired. He then told me that if I wanted to go with him and Paulo, they would be going to Beira the next month. When we got there, that was when we ended up meeting a guy who was a sangoma. This man that we met, his name was Joachim. He was a Mozambican guy who spoke little to no English at all. So we communicated through a translator. I told him about my financial problems. Even though I was running a business, my fear was that I could get broke since I was not being able to upgrade the assets that we were using in the business, we were still renting out these small trucks, and the people that I was renting these trucks from, they were charging me a lot of money. When I returned back to Joburg, I had been given a small metallic coffin, and I was told to keep it by my side for the whole year, and it was supposed to be in my car. So this small metallic coffin that was given to me, it was supposed to be wrapped in a red cloth at all the times. And I was also given a snake that no one was supposed to see. So this small coffin, it could fit into my handbag. And I made sure that I carried that small coffin and the snake wherever I would go to. The snake, I was told to feed it with chickens, those white chickens. I would buy 2 of them each and every month, and I would give it to the snake, and the snake would feed on the chickens, and it kept on growing. The people that were coming to me with their orders, they kept on doubling up, and I started to rent out a small plot from this other white man. That was when I started making money, because I was doing my own thing, and when it was harvest time, I would make maximum profit, because I was overcharging the Mozambicans, since they really did not have any choice, and they trusted me, and they do not go around asking for other farms if they have better prices. So they just deal with one person that they trust. Since they are coming from another country, they do not want any problems. They would rather pay a lot than to end up being robbed. So I was able to buy a better house in Joburg CBD, but I'm still staying in Orange Farm, because this is what I was told. The Tokolo, she wants to stay like in a place where there are a lot of people that it can use for this Tokology. It sleeps with women when they are on their period. As I was making a lot of money, to my surprise, that was when my husband started to get so sick. I did not even know that my husband was my sacrifice. The healer in Mozambique had told me that one way the charm was going to be activated, and the Tokology will start to drink up human blood. So this Tokology, sometimes it is a snake, sometimes it is a little man that only I can see. And when he spoke about human blood and it being activated, I thought that it will never be activated. I will make sure that I follow all the rules that I had been given to move around with the snake in my car at all the times. The snake was never supposed to be seen by someone else except for me, as well as moving around with that little coffin in my handbag. And I made sure that I only used that same handbag. I would always leave it in my car at all the times, and whenever I would go out, my handbag will be there by the passenger seat. As time went on, my brother, things happen. I was at this other Sasol garage just putting some fuel. I then told the guy that was pouring some fuel into my vehicle that I was driving to clean up the windscreen. As I was climbing out of my car, going to buy something inside the shop, I pressed the button by mistake and slightly opened up the boot of the car that I was driving. So there was another man who was also working at that garage. He then saw that at the back of the boot there was a snake that was there. He thought that maybe this was like a real snake. He did not know that it was a Tokology. He showed others that were there. When I came back, they told me that there was a snake, so I had to do what had to be done. They quickly looked for a long stick and they removed that snake from the boot of the car, and I did not want to stop them, because people will say, how is she moving around with a snake? People thought that maybe it was a snake that had entered into my vehicle at night, and when I started driving, then it started to feel the heat and it moved to the boot of the car. So they were like, if you do not kill this snake, it is going to come into the car and it's going to bite you whilst you are driving your car, and you will have an accident. They did not know that this was my tokology. Since there were a lot of people that were gathering around my car, I let them to take that snake out of the boot of my car, for it did not have any way to run to the whole area. It was covered up, and they removed it with a big stick, and those guys at that garage, they started to beat up my snake like no man's business, and it was killed. When they killed my snake, I also started to bleed. I quickly closed the boot of my car and I drove off. I drove maybe about 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers from the garage, and I started to bleed quite a lot, as if I was about to die, for my heart had been connected with my snake. This snake was dying. It whispered to me and he said, "Mama, I'm dying. If I die, you will also die. These people, they are about to burn me. Please save me." I said, "How can I save you, my son?" He then told me that it wanted human blood in order for it to be able to escape. I already had scratches all over my body. Wherever they had bitten this snake with their long sticks, I also had these marks all over my body, as if I had been bitten, for I am one with the snake. I then gave it a go ahead, and I saw a lot of people that were appearing in the windscreen, as if the windscreen had become a TV, and I saw my husband. And when I returned back to Joburg, my husband, he started complaining. He had a terrible fever. His temperature would shoot, and he said that he felt as if there was something that kept on biting him. This was the snake. And I took my husband to the hospital, and he never returned back. He passed away. When my husband passed away, that was when I realized what I had done. I had given the blood of my husband to that snake for it to survive. I did not have anything, no choice that I could have done at that time, because I did not want the snake to die, for if it dies, I will also die. My husband passed away. When my husband passed away, we buried him at West Park Cemetery. I avoided going with him to his village like what his relatives wanted us to do. For the relatives, they had said that they wanted us to go and bury him in KZN. I refused, for I was afraid that if they will do any ceremony on his grave, then something bad will happen to me, as I had been instructed by the traditional healer. But my husband, he started waking up as a ghost. I don't know how many times my husband has attacked me. 3 weeks later, after my husband had died, he was already coming and visiting me when I was fast asleep, and he would attack me in my dreams. At first, I would hear sounds, people talking up outside. Sometimes I would hear someone watching football. Then one day, my neighbor, when I was in Orange Farm at my house, not in the suburbs, one of my neighbor said that they saw that there was a candle that had been placed on top of my roof. So she wanted to know if it was I that had gone up the roof holding a candle. And I said, no, I never did such a thing. I don't even have a step ladder at my house. And people kept on seeing that there was a flame that was always burning on top of my roof. One day, my daughter, she woke up screaming, and she told me that she had seen her father, who was standing outside in the yard, and he was walking around. And sometimes my husband, I can also see him. He can do his chores that he used to do as a man when he was at home, not at work, clean the yard, drink his beer. Sometimes he can even have a braai at night, and you can see him busy braaiing. And even the dog that we have, sometimes it can bark, but in a way that it is like really scared of something, and the way that it barks, it gets so scary. I went back to that same Mozambican healer because I just wanted a solution to my problems that I was facing. It is not an easy thing to always see your dead husband walking around, to hear your dead husband doing his chores, talking to himself, watching football. When I got to the shrine, I then told the healer about everything that had been happening in my life, and I wanted a solution to all of these problems. That woman then told me that since her husband was not around, she was going to try and to perform a ritual for me as she was being instructed by her husband over the phone. And then the woman, who was the wife of that traditional healer, told me that since I was the one that had sacrificed my husband, and in his death he still recognized me as his wife. I then said, "What does that mean? What does it mean? Please explain it to me." And then she said to me, "If you marry again, or if you sleep with a normal man ever again in your life, that man will die." I asked him what she meant about a normal man. She said, "Your husband will only allow a man that is mentally ill or a homeless person, those people that when you look at them, you can say, never, I will never sleep with such a man. That is the only man that you will be allowed to sleep with by your husband." And this was the warning that she gave to me. And she said that my husband is now a territorial spirit. If I bring another man into my life, that man will get warnings in his dreams that he is dating someone that is married to a spirit, will fall sick. If he continues to date me, he can even become mentally unstable or can just die, because I am a wife to a spirit right now. So when I returned back to South Africa, I said I will try to just live taking care of my children, no boyfriend needed. But as time went on, I started to see that I also have sexual needs as a human being. I then started dating a man that I grew up with. He was a friend of mine. He was now in Joburg. We started dating. From the time that we started dating, even though he was married, he started to complain about having erectile dysfunction and him fighting with a man in his sleep, and he did not understand what was going on. I ignored, for I wanted him to become mine. He became so sick, my brother, that I even tried to get him to a private doctor, thinking that it was going to help, but it did not help. He then became mentally unstable. Sometimes he would beat up his wife holding a knife, saying that I want to cut out your throat and I'm going to drink up your blood, as if he was a tokoloshi. And whenever he would do that, I would see him in a vision, him being possessed by my tokoloshis. I finally decided to let go of him. Ever since that time, to confess to you, what I do is that I have selected a guy who is a homeless person. I just make sure that each and every time when I go to collect him, I clean him up and I make sure that we test before we sleep with each other. I just do it so that at least I can be able to live a normal life and to release the sexual tension that I'll be having in my body. As a woman, I also need love. This is my confession that I have brought to you. What I am currently looking for is any traditional healer that you might know of, that comes from Zim, that comes from any country where they have a lot of powerful charms. I have tried some sangomas here in South Africa, but I failed to get any help. I do not want someone that will end up messing the rituals for me. For when my tokoloshis get angry, they beat me up. They do not feel sorry for me at all. I just need help. I am a desperate woman. I never knew that me having these charms that assist me to have a great harvest will end up with my husband being dead, with me seeing the dead spirit of my husband. Please do not judge me, for I did what I did, thinking that it had to be done so that I can just survive. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. Let us try to speak about it in the comment section. If you have any confession, please feel free to come to my inbox and then you share with me your side of the story. Let us meet again in the following episode. So when I post a lot of episodes for you, we kindly ask that you watch all the episodes and also even if you don't comment, to just like the video. It will help the videos to be watched by other people. It will be recommended on their YouTube. So we kindly ask for you not to avoid other videos, to watch them all, as we will be posting for you.